people that work for you, they've got a life outside of the work, right? You have to remember that you have a life. And by the way, if you don't have a life outside of the work that you do, you need to get a life, right? You need to find a life, find something that you're doing outside of the work that you're doing. While you have a business that you need people to work it in order for the business to work well, you have to remember one thing. People that work for you, they've got a life outside of the work, right? You have to remember that you have a life. And by the way, if you don't have a life outside of the work that you do, you need to get a life, right? You need to find a life, find something that you're doing outside of the work that you're doing. So the people that work for you, they have real issues because they're real people. They have real dental appointments because they're real people. They have real emergencies because they're real people. They got real families because they're real people. They got real pressures because they're real people. They've got real house repairs. They got real car problems because they're real people. They've got real, the holidays that they want to be off for. They got real vacations they want to take. They got real birthdays and anniversaries that they want to celebrate. They got real potential for burnout. If we don't treat them like real people, we're going to lose our top talent. So when it comes time for scheduling, just keep in mind, these are real people that have some of the same things that they want to get through in life, just like you do. So they have kids that are going to get sick, and they didn't plan for that. They don't want their kids sick any more than you want their kids sick because it affects your schedule. They've got family members that took the car and they didn't communicate, whose time it was for them to take the car and everything. And so they're going to be real issues. You don't want it. They really don't want it either because it causes a lot of drama at the workplace, and yet it does happen. The point of this episode is this: life happens. Keep that in perspective. Life happens, and family members are going to get sick, or family members are going to come in, or things are going to happen that's going to throw your schedule into a whirlwind, right? So life happens, and when it does, it can throw the schedule off. And even the best laid plans, a monkey wrench can throw into it because life happens. So I would remember, first of all, to never make the schedule in marker. And I mean, like, you could use a marker, you could use an app if you want to. There's plenty of them out there. But what I mean by that is just don't make it permanent. Just know that it's subject to change. This schedule shall not change. And yet it can change. So just in your mind, mentally, you're just knowing the schedule I'm putting out, all the time I'm putting in, things can change in a heartbeat, right? The second thing I'd suggest is this: always check with the recent availability sheet for those team members that you're putting on the shift. Make sure that you have the latest updated version of their availability form so you don't schedule them outside of their availability, so there's no hiccup. As long as they're available for the shift, make sure that you can go ahead and schedule them as long as that's in their availability. The third thing I'd say is confirm with them. If you're going to schedule them outside of their availability, confirm with them, hey, I just want to remind you, you're still good for working that shift for Susie? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks, John. Appreciate that. Just wanted to make sure. Anything out of the ordinary, make sure you confirm with them, right? Say, well, I shouldn't have to babysit people. You're not babysitting. You're running a business. Communicate. One of the biggest things that businesses are failing to do right now is communicate to their employees. The fourth thing I would say is this: make the schedule fair. Make it fair for all the members. No one should have all the hours, and none others should not have the least hours. Everybody should be able to work and pull their weight, part-time, full-time, whatever they agreed upon. The fifth thing: keep an open mind as well as an open heart. Be tender to the people that people are people. They're going to do people things. You're going to do people things, and you're going to be glad that somebody was they treated you like a person when you got a flat tire, or when you had a crown that fell out and you had to go get it done in an emergency dental appointment, and so forth. The sixth thing is, I would do this: create the expectation that it's the team's responsibility to take ownership for finding shift coverage. Say, oh, this happened, this is an emergency, and I'm not going to be able to make it. Don't let them just dump that on your doorstep. Say, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and call the list of the people that are off right now? You have that available to you on Slack or on Teams, or however you communicate with your team. You have that available. Try to find some shift coverage and let me know what you find. You don't have to take that responsibility on yourself. Ultimately, it's going to be yours, but you could have them take ownership for it. Hey, I'm going to be calling in tonight. not able to come in. This emergency came up, but I called John, and John's going to cover my shift. Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that. Now, John may be on overtime right now, and you don't want that. You have to find somebody else, but at least they did their part in finding coverage. That you just got to create that expectation. Number 7, be married to the mission and not the method, right? The method is the schedule, but the mission is serving our guests. Ultimately, our guests are going to suffer the most if we don't get the right people in to make sure the shift is running properly. And the last thing is this: ensure that your team is properly rested before they come back to work. So many times they're closing and then they got to open the next morning, and they're not going to be fully rested. They're going to forget something. So make sure when you're looking at the schedule, make sure you're not scheduling people outside of that, where like they're going to close. Wait, you're going to close here and not get out of here until midnight, and then you're going to come in at 6 a.m. And that's not a lot of rest time. I don't think I can have you do that. Once you come in at 8, or why don't you leave early at 10? At least give them a little leeway. Just remember that, so that they're going to be playing at their best when they do show up. I would say this: when it comes to plans, plans can change. So do this: learn with an open mind, listen with an open heart, and then schedule your team accordingly. I know you got this, so go get this.